Jayla? Daniel? Well, I think Daniel probably had a heart that God would like, but that's not who we learned about last week. It did start with a D. It started with a D. Now, do you remember? David. That's right. David was a man after God's own heart. Do you remember? God doesn't look at us. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. God doesn't look like man looks at us. He sees what man sees, but he sees more than what man sees, doesn't he? God sees the outside and the inside. God sees what's on the heart, and when God looked at David's heart, he saw someone that loved him and wanted to please him. And we said a word last week. I had it on the chalkboard, and I have it on the front of my story here. So if David was a man after God's own heart, we said that he was, what word? He was godly, right? So we're talking about godly men or having godliness in yourself. So, David was a godly man. Does that mean he's a perfect man? No. He's not a perfect man. We're going to see that later on. In a few weeks, we're going to see he was not a perfect man. But when he sinned, it hurt him because he knew he displeased God, and he then would seek forgiveness from God, wouldn't he? Well, do you think godliness helps you? You think, see, a lot of times there's a lot of people who they're not godly and they don't care whether they're godly. In fact, they think it hurts them. They think that there's things that they can't do if they were going to be a godly person. But I think, and the Bible teaches us that being godly helps you. And we're going to see that today, and probably one of the stories that you've heard more than any other story in the Bible. Does anybody remember the name of the enemy of the Israelites? Who has been their enemy most recently in our stories? I don't have that picture anymore. But they served a god named Dagon, and their god was part fish and part man. And back a few weeks ago, they took the Ark of the Covenant into battle against them, and they captured, their enemy captured the Ark of the Covenant. Who was their enemy's name? What was the name of the enemy? Jimmy? You forgot it? Oh, the what? The Vikings? Close. And you said, start the sound. Vikings. No, they did look kind of like Vikings in the picture we had. All right, Jayla, you're the oldest here, aren't you? No? You're older than... I'm just messing up all day today, aren't I? Who were they? The Philistines. Remember the name of the Philistines? They were the enemies of the people of God. God would beat them. God sent thunder and lightning and hailstones to beat them. But then they went home and they got their army all built up again. And the Philistines had come against Israel to fight Israel. They wanted Israel to be their slaves. So they got all their soldiers together. They had all their sharp spears and their swords and their shields. And all the Philistines gathered on a big hill over on this side of the valley. And you know what happened? The Israelites, Saul, now who was Saul? Saul was the king of the Israelites. Saul got a bunch of Israelite men, soldiers, on a hill on this side of the valley. So there's a big hill on this side. With who's on this side? The Philistines. Okay, so all the Philistines are on this side. And who's on this side? The Israelites. And who's leading the Israelites? Who's the leader of the Israelites? Who's their king? Saul. Can anybody remember something about Saul, like about how big Saul was? You remember how big Saul was? Was Saul a short man, a normal-sized man, or a tall man? Short, normal, or tall? Class, what do we all think? He was tall. His head and his shoulders was above everybody else in Israel. So everybody else, their head came up to here on Saul. So Saul was a big man. He was tall, he was strong, and he was the king of Israel. He was the leader of them. Well, the Israelites were out there, and the Philistines were up there, and boom, boom, boom. There's a big noise. You might have thought that the whole army of the Philistines was coming down, but you know how many Philistines were coming down to fight against Israel? One. And he was a giant. He was not just a big man like Saul. He was a giant man. He was 9 feet, 6 inches tall or more. I mean, his head was like up to there. And he had a big helmet on top of his head. And the top of his helmet, I'm sure, would crush the ceiling. Would you like to fight against a man that was that tall? No, you think his spear is extra long? Yes, it was. His name, you probably know his name. His name was Goliath. Look at Goliath. He's giant. He's got big spear there. He's a huge sword hanging off of his belt. He's got protective armor on. He's got a big helmet. He even has metal on top of his legs. He even has somebody in front of him to hold his armor. What? Oh, he's taller than Saul. Okay, Saul's shoulders right here. So his head is right there. So, and where's Goliath's head? Brushing the ceiling. Okay, Goliath is more than head and shoulders taller than Saul. And he's a giant man. And he said, Israel, you're a bunch of sissies. Now, he didn't use those words because I speak English and he spoke something else. So he said, here's what we will do. You all are followers of Saul, your general, your king. There's no reason for all of the Philistines to fight all of you. How about if we do it this way? You pick a man. Send a man into the valley to fight against me. Just me and him. And if your man kills me, all of us Philistines will be your servants. But if I kill your man, all of you will be our servants. Send a man out to fight against me. And what do you think the Israelites did? Do you think they said, Saul, why don't you go? Or they said, I will go fight him. Do you think they did that? No, they didn't. They heard his voice and they saw how big he was. They ran and hid. They found a rock to hide behind. They might have dug a ditch and hid in there. They didn't want him saying, you, come fight against me. They were not going to go fight against him. What did they forget? They forgot something.
He was too tall.
No, he was too tall. They didn't forget that he was too tall. But they forgot something. What do you think they forgot? Corey? They were too scared to tell a man to go fight him. Why? But they were scared because they forgot something. What do you think they forgot? That's exactly right. They forgot that they had God. And we should remember that. Do you ever have things that you think are just too hard that you know you should do, but you can't do it because it's too hard? You sure do. I don't know what it is. Maybe your parents tell you to do something and you say, there's no way I can do that. Or you know you ought to go to church, but sometimes it just seems too hard. Is anything too hard for God, though? No. Was that giant too hard to fight? He's too hard for me to fight. He's too hard for you to fight. But if we have God on our side, nothing is too hard for God, right? But all it is like, you're hiding. Oh, the big giant Goliath. And he's up there, send me a man to fight against me. If I beat him, you be my servants. But if he beats me, we will be your servants. And every day, 40 days in a row, over a whole month. Could you imagine? Every day, from now until Christmas, some guy gets up and says, send me a man to fight against me. And they're all, oh, there he is. Oh. They were scared. But they were scared because they forgot that God was on their side. Saul forgot that God was on his side. If Saul depended on God, he could have gone out there and beat Goliath, but he didn't depend on God. In fact, this is what Saul said. Saul said, listen up, men. I don't know who can fight this giant, but whoever does, if they beat him, if they kill him, I will let my daughter marry him. So my son-in-law, and I will make him rich. And I will make sure that nobody in his family ever has to pay taxes. Well, that's a good thing. We don't want to pay taxes. But so Saul just said, I'm going to reward the person that fights him. Well, one day, all the men, the soldiers of Israel, they were there. And Goliath had gone back up the hill. And a young man came into the camp. And his name was David. David's dad, Jesse, had said, David, take this food and these cheeses and go see how your brothers are doing in the battle. See what's going on. Let us know what's going on. And give these cheeses to their captain. And so David, he left his sheep with somebody to watch the sheep. And he went down there and he went into the camp. And he was talking there and seeing how his brothers were doing. And he delivered the cheese to the captains. And you can imagine, what do you think happened while he was talking there? Guess who came down the hill? Yes, sirree. Goliath came down the hill, and he started talking. And what did Goliath say when he talked? Send me a man, right? He says, if your man beats me, we will be your slaves. But if I beat him, you will be my slaves. And he said, you guys, you think your God is strong. Your God is nothing. I'm stronger than any man in Israel. And that made David mad. And it's good to be mad. Because that Goliath, he was shaking his fist at them, wasn't he? But he was also shaking his fist at God. He was saying, I'm bigger even than your God. And David's like, no man curses God and curses us in the name of his own gods. Why doesn't somebody go out there and fight that guy? And what did the soldiers tell him? They said, well, nobody really wants to, but if anybody does, what did they tell him? If anybody does, the king is going to let him become his son-in-law and make him rich, and his family will never have to pay taxes. And David says, well, somebody ought to go fight him. I will go fight that guy. Nobody else is going to fight him. And guess who came along? His big brother came along and said, what are you talking about? You don't know anything about fighting. And David said, well, somebody needs to fight him because he's cursing God. And he's cursing the people of Israel. And he's claiming that he's stronger than our God. He says, I would fight that man. And guess what? Some of the other soldiers, they heard David and they said, well, they went to Saul and they said, Saul, there's a boy that came, and he said he will fight him. And Saul said, send that boy in here. So Saul comes. So David was brought into Saul's tent. There's Saul, and there's David. And Saul says, so you're going to fight Goliath? He says, sure, I'm going to fight Goliath. Somebody needs to fight Goliath. And he says, well, Goliath is a very strong man. He's been a man of war for a long time, and you're just a youth. You've never fought in battles or anything like that. He says, Saul, when I was watching the sheep, a lion and a bear came along to get my sheep, and God allowed me to kill the lion and the bear, and this evil Philistine, he is going to be just like that lion and just like that bear because God is on my side. Saul said, okay, you can go fight him, but here, put my armor on top of you. Now, how big is David? How big is David? He's probably about this big. Normal size. And how big is Saul? This big, right? So what do you think Saul's armor was like on David? It was big armor. And David never wore armor before. And he's like, how am I going to fight with this armor on? He put the armor on. He says, I've got to go out there. And Saul was like, you be careful. He'll kill you. So David ran out there. You know what he had? We know what he had because we sing the song, don't we? Only boy named David. He had a slingshot. And it wasn't one of these kind of slingshots like we have. It was a slingshot with rope and a pouch on the end. And he was swinging it like this. And he went running out there. And now where were the Israelites? They're on a mountain over here, right? And where are the Philistines? They're on a mountain over here. So David comes out this way. And he's going out there. And he crosses a stream. Little stream. Not a lot of water in it. And what's always in little streams? Rocks. So he got himself 5 smooth stones. Smooth ones. So they would fly really good through the air. He got himself 5 smooth stones and he put them in his pouch on his side. And he went out to fight Goliath. And there's big old Goliath there. Send me a man! And he looks. And what does he see? He sees a boy. Just an older boy, a young man. He says, What are you sending you're sending a dog to chase me around with sticks? Send me a man to fight for me. And David said to him, Goliath said, I'm going to feed you to the birds. I'm going to kill you and break you in pieces and feed you to the birds. And David replied to him, and I want to read to you just exactly what David said. The Bible tells us what David said. Let me find it here. David said to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield. Right? He had that spear and a sword and a shield. Said, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts. David remembered something that the Philistines forgot, didn't he? He remembered that God was on his side. I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thy head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, and all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. That's what David said. And David took the rock, right? And he put it in the sling, and round and round and round and round, right? And one little stone went up in the air, and it smote, landed right in Goliath's forehead. And it killed him, knocked him over dead. And the giant came what? Tumbling down. And after the giant came tumbling down, David ran up there, and he didn't have a sword in his hand, did he? Because he left Saul's armor back there. He didn't have a shield, he didn't have a spear, all he had was a sling. But he went up there, and he grabbed Goliath's sword. He took Goliath's sword, and he chopped his head off with his own sword. And he picked up that head. It seems kind of gross. But Goliath was an evil man. And when the Philistines saw that their man had died, you think they said, well, he died. I guess we're all the servants of Israel. Did they do that? No. They ran for their lives. And the Israelites, they got excited. They said, Goliath is dead. And they went chasing him. And David got a great, great victory that day. Why did David win that day? Because he remembered that God was on his side. God is the one that fights for us. And David took the head, the Bible says later on, that David took the head back to Saul's tent. And Saul had called him back and wanted to congratulate him. And he said, I want you to stay in my palace. And he did. He went back there and he even went out and fought other battles for the people of Israel. And they would come back from battles. Saul and David would come back from battles and they would win. And all the people would be excited about the battles that they won. And the ladies would start singing their songs. They would say, Saul has killed thousands. Yay! And other ladies would say, and David has killed tens of thousands. Yay! And then they say, Saul has killed thousands. Yay! And David has killed tens of thousands. Yay! You think Saul liked that song? He didn't. He heard that. The people were just excited. But he heard that and said, did you hear that? They think that David is better than me. Saul was becoming a bad man. Remember? He was disobedient and he just got worse and worse. He got jealous and envious. The lady saying, Saul has killed thousands. You'd think he would like that. But then he said, David has killed tens of thousands. And they like David more than they like me. They like David more than they like me. I'm going to kill David. That way they won't have anybody to like more than they like me. And one day, David was there. And what happened? The evil spirit came over Saul. And what did David do when the evil spirit came over Saul? Remember from that? He would get his harp out and he'd play the music to try to help Saul feel better. David ran and he got his harp and started to try to play the music to help Saul. And Saul took a javelin that was next to his throne and he threw it at David. David must have seen it coming and whoo! That would scare me to death. And he ran out there. But a couple weeks later, he was there, and evil spirit came over Saul, and he got his harp to try to play that harp, trying to make that evil spirit go away. And Saul was there, said, David, the people like David more than they like me. I hate David. I'm going to kill him so they don't have anyone else to like more than they like me. He's sitting there, he grabbed his javelin, and he threw it. David missed it. Why do you think it missed David? How do you think that David missed the javelin? God was with David, wasn't he? God was protecting him. Because God had said that he was going to be the king. So David is being protected. David is the one that depended on God. David is the one right now that we ought to be saying, I want to be like David, right? Can bad things happen to us? Yeah, I mean, David had a spear thrown at him. We might be in trouble. Will people hate us if we're godly? Yeah. But it doesn't matter if people hate us as long as God loves us, right? If God looks on our heart and says, I know that person, I'm happy with them. Doesn't matter if kids at school make fun of you. If you stand for what's right, if you say, I won't do that, that's wrong, that's a sin. I want to be a godly boy, or I want to be a godly girl. People are going to get jealous. They'll be mad at you, and they might be angry and do mean things to you, but if you're doing that, God will be on your side. But if you just do your own thing, you could be like Saul too, couldn't you? Saul was a person, and David was a person, and each one of us can either be like Saul or David. And we should want to be like David. We can only be like David if we turn to Jesus Christ. And he saves us, and he changes our heart. Inside of our heart by itself is ugly. It's wicked, and it wants to do bad things. But God can change our heart. If we turn from our own way and we turn to God, he can clean our heart up. He can cleanse our heart. He can forgive our sins and give us a new heart. Not a new pumping heart, but a new mind and new ways to think. And we can be somebody that God likes when he looks on our heart. We should want to be the person that God likes, the person after God's own heart, a godly person. So you remember that. And one of the best things, one of the most important things to remember from today's story is that when things look bad and you don't think you can do it, you can if you trust God, because God is greater than